is the Blue Nile River. Now Ethiopia inaugurates which one? It is, we call it as Africa's the largest, we call it as hydroelectric dam. Now that we call it as GERD. What is GERD? It is Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Grand Ethiopian, we call it as Renaissance Dam, which was being inaugurated by Ethiopia in which country? It is Sudan. On which banks? On which river banks? It is on, we call it as Nile River. Now coming towards our, it is, I already said this, Blue Nile originates from which country? Ethiopia. Now in a location called as Lake Thana. In a location called as Lake Thana, first one. Now second major important one, it is White Nile originates from one of the largest, it is the Lake of Africa. The largest lake of Africa yavadu? Lake Victoria. Lake Victoria, it is originates, the White Nile originates White Nile, and this is originating from a countries called as two countries. It is Tanzania, Uganda and Kenya. These are bordering countries of, we call it as Lake Victoria. Now from this Lake Victoria, we have an origination of a tributary called which tributary? White Nile. And second one from Lake Thana, it is from Ethiopia. There is an origination of, we call it as Blue Nile. And both this White and Blue Nile, it is, or I can say merges at where? Merges at, we call it as Khartoum. Now this Khartoum is the capital of, it is Sudan. And this flows via, how many countries? Now this flows via major agi, it is 4 important countries, and this is a total 9 countries. Now major blue line ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನೋಡಿದಾಗ it is merge ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಎಷ್ಟು countries flow ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ it is Sudan, it is Egypt, and finally it drains at, we call it as Alexandria, towards the north of Alexandria, and that we call it as towards Mediterranean Sea. Now this drains it into, we call it as Mediterranean the Sea. This drains it into, we call it as Mediterranean, and the capital of, we call it as Egypt, we call it as Cairo, capital of Sudan, we call it as Khartoum, and this is considered to be, we call it as the longest river of the world.